So this is a 2004 Buick transmission, and it makes a really weird gurgling sound. Transmission fluid is gross, so we're gonna see how bad it is before we pull the transmission, because the transmission's bad. Here comes the crud. So now with the pan down, you can see there's just absolute carnage inside the pan here. So we got like bits and pieces of all kinds of stuff. So the transmission is clearly bad. So I'm gonna take it out. All right, 2004, 2005 Buick Lacrosse. And we got these bolts down here. I'm gonna take these out. This is for the bell housing. I'll take those out down here and underneath this stuff here. I've already taken the connectors off, taking this air snoot out. Pretty simple stuff there. So I'm going to take these bolts out, take this connector out here, and just press on each side. Boop, that comes out. So I'm going to do some more work up here, do some bracketry stuff. Here I'm just taking part of the shift linkage off. There's also a bolt down further that needs to be taken off. So here I'm getting away from my work a little bit with an extension, getting these bolts off the bell housing. So we're looking here, this is the bell housing bolts that we have taken off. There's one that underneath the exhaust kind of hidden, and then you have this stud with the ground on it, with a small different size nuts. You want to take that off, so I'm doing here. And then I'm able to get my stud after the nut is off and break it loose, and it comes out right out. So here I'm taking a flat blade and just popping my linkage off the shifter. It pops right off real easy. So I'm going to take the throttle body off just to make it a little easier as far as draping the chain over and putting a cross brace on it so I have the engine supported. All right, so I have now I got this in place. I have nice and solid. Nice cross brace. You gotta make sure that it doesn't drop down on top of me, because you have to have it supported for safety reasons, because there's not a whole lot of stuff there. You have this shielding on each side. All right, so I got these out on both sides. These are 18s, and I just tapped it here with a hammer. Boop, pops out. So now I'm gonna go look at everything else I gotta do here. The rack needs to come loose. There's some rack bolts there. Up here. There we go. All right, so I got this over on this side here, and I gotta start working on getting these. Pinch this down a little bit here, so I got a little bit more room. Let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. Pinch it down. And see if I can push it through. Doop. Doop, doop, doop. Let's see what size that is. This probably looks like a 17. So I got this nut busted loose. I'm going to get it loose with my fingers. After I get that, then I'm going to have to put a pry bar underneath the ball joint and pry in order to get it to pop loose and pop it up. Then later I'm going to pop the axles out and leave the axles attached to the wheel bearing and everything. So now that the nut's up, I have to pry down and get the nut out when it's pried up. Next step is I'm going to go ahead and get the bolts loose that go through the side here for the rack. And once I get the bolts out, then I'm just going to tie the rack up so it's just kind of hanging on the exhaust, so that when I drop the subframe and everything like that, it's still going to be connected to the steering wheel and everything. So you can kind of see the bolt hanging out there. I took the nut off. The next spot is you want to take the sway bar links off, and then you want to take the sway bar itself and then bolt those nuts and make it free so that you can pull it out or leave it, have it come down. Either way, it has to come out and be out of the way so you can do the transmission. So here I'm taking the bolts that come through the top here for the sway bar itself. We're going to get these bolts out. I'm going to go over to the other side, do the exact same one I just did the other side, and we're going to get it out of there. Alright, so now with the sway bar loose, we're able to move it out of the way so we can get these bolts that are getting hung up on the sway bar and pull those out. So we move the sway bar out, the bolt comes right out. So I'm going to take these bolts out from my transmission mount, then I'm already tied up my tie rod ends up so they can just sit there and sway on the shock. And I'm going to look around for any connectors or wiring harnesses that are connected to the subframe so that I can undo those so I don't rip them off. So in this part here, I was able to get it pried up, so I'm able to work my nut out, so I have enough room to bring it out underneath the axle. Alright, so here I'm using my adjustable pry bar here and able to pop it out like that. I'm going to push it out of the way, and then I'm going to pry on my axles on the inside where they connect to the transmission and get them to pop loose. So now I have everything supported and everything like that in a safe manner. I'm going to start looking for the subframe bolts I'm going to take out. I believe there's 19. And I'm going to support the subframe as it comes down with a jack of some sort and let it come down easy. So I know that I'm not going to pry anything and break anything off, which is a pretty common occurrence. So you just want to make sure there's nothing hanging at this point that can snap easily and cause you some more money. There's a couple bolts here for the mount on the front of the engine. Take those out, they're 15s. So now I'm going to lower it down a little bit, just make sure nothing's hanging or anything like that. I got a lot of help with this, so there's no danger of me dropping this on my face or my leg. So we're just coming down nice and easy. Alright, now with the subframe out of the way, I can pop this driver axle out. So this is a hidden bolt for your shifter. So your shift lane good, so you got to pull that off. Alright, so here on the other side there's this little cover. It's got a 10 that's holding this plastic cover over the starter. Once you get that off, there's a couple bolts for your starter. There's a 15 at the bottom, and I think there was a 15 at the top. Hidden, you can't really see it that well. Plus there's a 13 that holds on the main cable, and there's a 10 that holds on the other excite wires. So you have this bracket. This bracket's going to need to come off.
Got this out of the way.
Once the starter's out of there, there's actually a plastic shield right there that needs to come off also. But here I'm going with the torque converter bolts, and you want to make sure that you mark the torque converter to the flex plate so you know how to line up the new one, because if you don't, sometimes they don't line up correctly, so you have to sit there and spin the engine and transmission over and over and over again until it finally lines up. Alright, so now I'm getting the bolts out of my torque converter. It's all marked like it should be. And then I'm going to spin it around. You can spin it with the crank, but I just used this pry bar and used the engine block to move it. Then I'm able to get to the next bolt, loosen it, and then after I pop this one loose, I'll work on to the next one. And after this, there's a little plastic shield I was telling you about a little bit ago. Right there, there's a 10 right there that holds it into place and gets a little better access. I think there was actually a bell housing bolt behind this that needs to be taken out. Alright, so here I'm getting the last little grounds here and there for the wiring harness off the transmission. And my next step after I get these grounds is I'm going to go after these lines. There's a special tool that expands these clips, and then you're able to pick them out with a pick, or lines should be able to pull off, but these were stuck in there, so I had to pick them out with a pick. So this is the bracket for the front of the transaxle towards the front of the engine. You get these bolts out of here, then this will allow you to get better access to the last couple bell housing bolts on the transmission. So you get this bracket out of the way, get a long extension, get in there and get the last two, and there's one at the very top that you can't see very well and you have to look for it. So in order to get this bracket off, I had to pull the oil filter housing off. So there's a spring and there's a special gasket, so you'll have to order a gasket for it. And the spring in here, you just don't want to make it go tongue, and then you'll lose the way the little plunger goes in there. So I'm pulling these bolts off. I believe they were 13s. Pull those off, and then it allows this to get out of there. Then my bracket will come out of the way. And see, this is the spring, this is the plunger, and there's that. The bracket comes right out. With that out of the way, you can look in here. It's hard to say, but it goes straight back. You can see it right there. That's a bell housing bolt. There's also one at the very top that you can't see. Alright, so I'm pulling out the plunger and the spring here. This is how it's orientated, just in case you have to deal with the same thing. All right, so it's out. It's on the tranny stand here. So things you want to do is you want to look at this one compared to this one as far as pieces that you didn't take off. The thing that I missed here, there's over on the driver's side or passenger side right next to that oil filter thing, you have this, then you also have the speed sensor. If you looked at my Impala videos in the past, same style. So we have this bracket we got to switch over. A few other things we got to switch over to this new transmission. This is a junkyard known good transmission. It's got all the part numbers on it and all that stuff. But I'm going to clean this off, make it look fancy, and then we're going to put it back up in here. But after I do that, I'm going to have to flush the tranny, cooler, make sure there's nothing gross in there, inspect all our mounts. You got some weather checking here in the mounts and stuff. I don't know if now may be the time to change it, so I will discuss that. And yeah, so thanks for watching so far. All right, howdy fixtures. So I didn't show any of the video of it going back up. The things that I missed is that there's I didn't show taking out the tranny mount to the very top. There's 3 bolts that mount onto the tranny. I did not show taking that off, and I missed that part. But you want to make sure you do that or the transmission will not come out. Also, there is yeah, there's the little tranny quick disconnect lines. Mine ended up leaking from the transmission I got from the junkyard, so I just want to kind of be critical of those because they can leak on you. But that's it. Sorry there's no other part because the phone ran out of memory on my phone. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions or anything like that, please give me a like, give me a subscribe, or tell a friend about it. And like I said, I'm open for any questions you got. I can help you out. Hopefully here in the future, try to do like a live video to answer any questions or anything like that for people. So thanks for watching. Really appreciate it.
Fix are good.
Be a fixer. Be your own hero.